Manchester. This is where the Industrial Revolution began. For decades, it was the powerhouse of North England. Now the abandoned cotton mills are dwarfed by designer skyscrapers, and the canals no longer bring ocean-going ships to the factories. But Manchester still attracts, if not trade, then people from all over the world because of the area's famous football teams.
There are 9 professional teams in the Greater Manchester area, 4 of them in the Premier League, as well as United and City. We also have Bolton Wanderers and Wigan Athletic. Then in the lower divisions, in League One, which is the 3rd tier of English football, we have Oldham Athletic. And then we have 4 teams in League Two, the 4th tier of English football, if you like. Stockport County, who are about 7 miles to the southeast of here, and perhaps the closest team to Manchester. And then we have Bury and Rochdale and Macclesfield Town.
With that many choices, priorities must be made.
I think you have to go and see a Manchester United game if you get the opportunity. One of the greatest football stadiums in Europe, in the world, fantastic atmosphere.
Ironically, one of the main contributors to Manchester United's immense and global popularity is also one of the biggest tragedies in the history of football. On February the 6th, 1958, 8 of the most talented players in the club ever died in a plane crash in Munich on their way home from a European Cup match in Belgrade.
It spread around the world as well, that tragedy, and the name of Manchester United became a significant name in world football because of that. They have a great tradition for success, but they also have a great cosmopolitan tradition for attracting support far beyond Manchester.
The fact that Manchester United attracts so many fans from outside the city has over time become a punchline for its other half, the supporters of Manchester City.
Well, I think you have to come from Manchester, of course, to support Manchester City. You have to come from anywhere outside Manchester to support Manchester United. I think that's the simplest way of describing it.
That's not quite true. There's a little sort of a split down the centre of the city, really. All the little towns to the west side, such as Salford and Eccles, they tend to be United territory. All the towns to the east, Stockport, Droylsden, Ashton-under-Lyne, that tends to be Manchester City territory. So it's generally an east-west split. For years, I would say Manchester City took the rivalry more seriously than Manchester United did. I think United looked at City as like an annoying little kid brother, really. Whereas City looked at United as the annoying big brother who they wanted to get the better of, and they didn't get the better of them for a long time. And City were always lower in the league, and United were always higher.
In latter years, that has changed. Another thing that has changed is the home ground of City. Today, they play at the modern City of Manchester Stadium. But for 80 years, until 2003, City's fortress was at Main Road. Since then, the old ground has been demolished, thus ripping the heart out of the local area, Moss Side. And the City fans also felt as though something was lost in moving. The construction of this pub next to the new ground illustrates the nostalgia with which they think of their old home. However, the City of Manchester Stadium does its best to compete with Old Trafford in attracting visitors, and the City fans make it worth a visit.
I think you get real fans with real passion, loyalty, with real atmosphere. You know, you can sit and speak to the supporters and they'll tell you passionately what football is all about. I think if you go to Manchester United, you probably have to learn 6, 7, 8, 9 different languages to be able to speak to the supporters. So you'd never be able to speak to them. It's all sign language.
I think going to Man United is just a brilliant day out. Going to City, going to watch a mediocre team. So if you come here, you'll enjoy yourself more than going to City.
If you wish to avoid the big city banter, Bolton Wanderers could be the club to watch.
It's right next to the motorway, so you don't actually have to go to Bolton to go to the ground. You just come off the motorway, you're into the ground. It's usually a good atmosphere in there. It's very noisy. It's an impressive stadium. It's a nice shape with the curving roofs, and it really keeps the noise in. And when you're in there on a match day, you really hear the crowd, even if it's not full, and it isn't always full.
The same thing goes for Wigan, despite having also improved their match facilities vastly with the construction of the JJB Stadium to replace their old ground.
They had one little main stand, then a terrace on the opposite side, and behind each goal just had a grassy little hill where the fans used to stand, and if it was on a very wet, rainy day, then the fans would sometimes slide down the bank.
No risk of that nowadays. And Manchester city centre is still less than half an hour away. So take the opportunity to exploit one of the country's best shopping districts, topped by the majestic Arndale Centre that presents more than 130,000 square metres of retail floor. But remember the football and try your ticket luck in this, one of the world's greatest football cities.